In this video, we're going to be covering section 1.7, which talks about multiplying and dividing real numbers. Basically, we just need to know the sign rules, and after that, it's just calculation and practice, 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 as I always say. So let's get started. Section 1.7, we are going to be multiplying and dividing real numbers. Okay, now sign rules are different than the addition subtraction. Addition subtraction, it was dependent upon the size of the number, whether the answer was positive or negative when the signs were different. In this case, the number itself has nothing to do with that. It is just the signs that are in the problem that you have to focus on. So let's look at that. If we have a positive times or divided by, it's the same rule, a positive, we will get a positive answer. If we have a positive, I'm just going to abbreviate now, times or divided by a negative, our answer will be negative, no matter what the size of the numbers are, whether they're positive or negative. If it's negative times or divided by a positive, that will be negative. And then finally, if we have a negative times or divided by another negative, that is positive. Okay, those are the rules. After that, we just need to calculate. And they're the same calculations that we've known pretty much our entire lives. Okay, so let's look at a few examples. Let's say we have 39 times negative 142. Okay. Now, remember, we saw something similar to this in the addition subtraction where I said, oh, those parentheses don't mean multiplication. That was when we had a plus sign here. But when there's no other symbol, operation symbol there, this is multiplication. Okay. So first thing I would do, I have a positive times a negative is a negative. After that, I don't care about the signs. I'm just going to multiply 39 times 142. Now, when I do that, when I do the stacked multiplication, I always want to have the longer number on top and the shorter number on the bottom. Notice I didn't say the bigger number necessarily. When we get into decimals, it's the length of the number that's going to make it a little easier to work through. So I'm going to put the 142 times 39. Okay, and then I go through the process. I'm just going to multiply one digit at a time. So I'm going to go with this 9. 9 times 2 is 18. I carry that 1. 9 times 4 is 36. Plus 1 is 37. Carry the 3. 9 times 1 is 9. Plus 3 is 12. Okay, now what we do next is we multiply by a 3, but that 3 has an actual value of 30. So what we're going to do is move over 1 unit by starting with a 0. Okay, and then we multiply and do the same thing with the 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4, this has already been used, so is that. So 3 times 4 is 12, carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Okay, and then all we do is add that up. Guys, what we're doing here is multiplying these units or digits separately. We're multiplying by 9 ones, and then we're multiplying by 3 tens. Okay, so what we then do is add up. So we've got an 8, 13, carry the 1, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and then 4 plus 1 is 5. And there we have it. Now, don't forget, what was our answer? Our answer was negative 5,538. Okay. Let's look at now a decimal example. So let's say we have that. Okay. Now, first of all, negative times a negative is a positive. So I know that my answer is going to be positive at the end. Now, when we multiply this, this is what I was talking about a few minutes ago. I want to stack these so the longer number is on top, shorter number on the bottom. In this case, 4.5 is bigger than 0.398, but the 0.398 has more digits. So I'm going to put that on top. So I have 0.398 and a 4.5. When we added decimals, what we did was line up the decimals. Here we line up the digits. We line up the numbers, okay? Now, notice I'm not lining up the values of those digits. I'm just lining up the numbers themselves. When we do the multiplication, those decimals get completely ignored. It's as if I was multiplying 398 times 45. Okay, so let's go through that. 8 times 5 is 40, carry the 4. 9 times 5 is 45, plus 4 is 49, carry the 4. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 4 is 19. Start with a 0 because, again, I'm moving over to the next digit. 4 times 8 is 32. Cross out those 4s because I already used them. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 3 is 39. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. And now I add down those columns. So I've got a 0, 9 plus 2 is 11, carry the 1. 10 plus 9 is 19, carry the 1. 2 plus 5 is 7, and then I got the 1 right there. Okay. Now, it's at this point that we take into account that decimal place that we ignored at the beginning. Okay. In this original problem, we had, let me get another color here. In this original problem, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places being multiplied together. Okay, 4 decimal places, 4 digits to the right of a decimal. So what we do is we take the decimal that's not seen here, so therefore it's understood to be back at the end, and I move it back 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I get is a positive 1.791. And that's how we multiply decimals. Line up the numbers and then multiply normally, but then bring that decimal back the same amount of decimal places that are in the original problem. Simple as that. Okay. One last thing on this, I want to show you a dividing with decimals problem to see how that gets worked out. Let's say we have 4.82 divided by negative 0.2. Okay, so first thing, as with the others, I want to determine that my answer is going to be negative first, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay. Next, I want to line up this division. Okay, division, again, sometimes you can do it in your head. That's great. But if not, totally okay. We need to know how to do it on paper. So that is going to bring in long division. So I have 0.2 going into 4.82. This is what we call our divisor. That's what's doing the division. And this is called a dividend. Now, notice I didn't bring that negative down with it because I already took it into account with my answer here. Okay, so I'm going to leave the negative out so I don't crowd the issue when I'm doing the division. Now, I don't want to have to think how many times 0.2 goes into something. So what I'm going to do to get this thing started is I'm going to adjust the decimal. Now, what I mean by that is I move this decimal in the divisor as many times as it takes so it's all the way to the right. So now that divisor is simply a 2. Now here's the thing. I moved this one spot so it's all the way to the right. But if I move this one spot, I got to move that one spot. So this movement is so that it goes all the way to the right. But how many ever spots I move it here, I move it the same amount of spots over here. So now that turns into a 48.2. Okay. Now, at this point, I'm dividing this like I normally would. This is like a 482 divided by 2. Okay, that decimal simply gets brought up into the answer like so. Now I just go through the normal division. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract, I get nothing. I bring down that 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. I subtract, I get nothing. Bring down the 2. Notice I ignored that decimal down here. I just brought it up and it's done. Now, 2 goes into 2 once. 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm done. I said originally that my answer should be negative, so my answer is negative 24.1. That's pretty much it. Okay, so know your sign rules, and as always, practice, practice, practice. Okay, see you next time.